Hi, good morning, everybody. Like Deanna said, I am one of the financial aid advisors for students here in the College of Veterinary Medicine. And this morning I will be walking you through what to expect in terms of cost and also loan options to support you. My colleague will be joining us shortly, Dr. Ramirez, and I'm presently in one of his offices here at the college. He'll share more about what he does, and he will also be speaking to the scholarship. So just know I'm going to be covering the loan options, and Dr. Ramirez will be picking up shortly with the scholarship information. I will continue to stick around and answer questions for the Q&A, probably for another like half an hour or so. I'm also going to be providing my contact information because I know this is going to generate questions for a lot of you. And then are we okay on the screen share?
Yep, I can see your screen. I can hear you great. You're good to go.
So my email address is provided. I'll provide this again at the end of the presentation. I am a financial aid advisor on the main campus. I also am out here at the college 1 to 2 days a week throughout the entire academic year to meet with students. Because you guys saw your anticipated daily class schedule, I know there may not be a lot of in-person time to visit with me while you're here. So a lot of students will email, and that's great. I'm happy to answer questions however I can talk with you in person or email. We're going to start out with cost though. So this is what to expect for your upcoming year. So we're going to talk about kind of what this looks like, what to expect on your bill. So presently our tuition and fees are not finalized for the upcoming school year. Tuition and fees at a public school like Iowa State University are finalized in June by the State of Iowa Board of Regents. This is important to know because here at the school, we certainly don't want to increase your tuition, but ultimately it is a decision that is made by a board appointed by the governor of Iowa. And the current costs for students who are enrolled presently this year are included. It is assumed that you will be enrolled full-time, and the tuition and mandatory fees include the cost for your classes for the full academic year, a fall and spring semester, as well as mandatory fees. Those include the activity fee for things like going to the gym and riding the bus, as well as a health facility fee and mandatory technology fees. You will also have a required laptop computer purchase. This will be billed once during the fall semester, and the student panel can speak more towards this laptop if you have questions about it. We do anticipate, though, for students who are from Iowa, that your expected cost on your bill at Iowa State University will probably be the same as or more than this current year, so about $28,000. Non-resident students closer to $57,000. And again, this is current year tuition and fees. Tuition and fees may change in June for the upcoming school year, and we'll make that information available to you as soon as we know it. We also know that students incur a lot of out-of-pocket expenses, and out-of-pocket expenses are those that you likely will not have on your bill at Iowa State University, but you will still need to cover to maintain your quality of life as a student. Out-of-pocket expenses include housing and meals, books and supplies, and other personal expenses that you may incur or that anyone could incur in just daily cost of living. This is by no means a bill of what to expect for your exact out-of-pocket costs, but this is a good guide of kind of what to go off of. The student panel will be able to speak more towards housing, what costs look like, how they're affording that. Thankfully, being a college town, Ames does have, I would say, pretty good priced housing options available for students, and most students can live well under their means or well within their means in terms of housing and still have a good quality of life in a place that they enjoy living with or without roommates. So whenever we talk about cost of attendance, this is the total amount of financial aid you're offered. Cost of attendance, though, is not necessarily your bill. So if you look down at the bottom and you see a cost of $41,000 for resident students, $70,000 for non-resident students, this is all of your billable and non-billable expenses. This is not just your bill at Iowa State University. Your actual non-billable expenses may vary, and this will vary student to student. One way to get options to help cover your billable and non-billable expenses, because financially can cover all of it, is by filing the FAFSA form. I just know some of you may have had exposure to filing the FAFSA before, and we're going to talk more about the loan options, but we do recommend filing the FAFSA by March 1st every year to be considered for a loan called the Health Professions Student Loan. We'll speak more about that here shortly. If you do want to be considered for Health Professions Student Loan, you do need to file the FAFSA with parent information. If you've not yet filed the FAFSA or you don't want to be considered for the Health Professions Student Loan, you can file the FAFSA anytime. So for those of you who haven't done it yet, it is not too late. You can still file the FAFSA for this upcoming school year. Financial aid offers for all students will be available around the middle to end of May. That will be mailed to you and also made viewable in Access Plus. I'm going to speak more about these loan options here next. Dr. Ramirez will speak more about the scholarships, and so just know that is still coming up. But in terms of loans, you will have loan options provided on your financial aid offer so long as the FAFSA is filed. The FAFSA is good for 1 academic year, and so every year I'll send you a reminder email to file the FAFSA for the upcoming school year. You're never required to accept the loan amounts offered to you. They can be reduced or declined if you do not want to use all or any of the loans made available to you. Loans are payable after you leave school, and if you borrowed loans during your undergraduate years, those loans are paid back after you finish veterinary school, and they are deferred, meaning no payment is required while you're enrolled. The different types of loans include the unsubsidized loan, a PLUS loan, and a health profession student loan. I have a chart on the next page where we'll look more about the loan options, but an unsubsidized loan is a loan from FAFSA that any FAFSA filer can get. Doesn't matter if parent information is required or not. Another type of FAFSA loan is called a PLUS loan. This one is also available to FAFSA filers. Now the difference is a PLUS loan is credit-based, and so it is going to run credit to determine if you are an approved borrower. The final type of loan is a health profession student loan. This is specific for students pursuing a degree in animal or human medicine. The health profession student loan is funded by the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Health and Human Services requires that parent information is required or is provided on the FAFSA, regardless of your age, your marital status, or if you have children. Parent information is still required. Now, this health profession student loan is a need-based loan, and I'm going to flip to this next chart so we can look at the difference between these. I'm going to jump down, though, to that health profession student loan. The health profession student loan is a no interest loan. So yes, you have to pay it back, but it's no interest in school and no interest for 1 year after you leave school. This is one way students can help to save money in the long run is by using the health profession student loan. This is also prohibitive for some students because it is a need-based loan program and parent information is required on it. I understand parent information may not be accessible or available to all of you, and in that way, health professions may be prohibitive as an option. The unsubsidized loan and PLUS loans, though, are required or are available for any FAFSA filer. No parent information is required, and the FAFSA can be filed at any time. Now, I am going to touch on these amounts here because the amount, the $40,500, if you're a student from Iowa, that will cover your bill. Now, if you're from out of state joining us as a non-resident student, that $40,500 is not going to cover your full cost of attendance. And so our non-resident students especially are looking at borrowing a PLUS loan. A PLUS loan is another type of unsubsidized loan, but it's credit-based, and so you'll file the FAFSA and then complete another loan application to apply for the PLUS loan. It is also important to be mindful of the interest rates on these loans. The present interest rate for the unsubsidized loan is 6%, and the interest rate for the unsubsidized loan is 6%, PLUS loan is 7%. And so that interest can rack up over the years, and so ways to minimize that debt could include using the health profession student loan if that's accessible to you and available to you, or limiting borrowing in the PLUS loan and perhaps saving some money if you're able to over the summer and use that perhaps to pay some out-of-pocket expenses that are incurred. Your financial aid steps will be included on your financial aid offer available in Access Plus, and I'll talk more about that here shortly. Your financial aid will disperse to your university bill 1 week before classes start each semester. And there's always a bill due at the beginning of each semester as well. The bill comes due August 20th for fall and January 20th for the spring semester. Now, a lot of students are using financial aid to live on because understandably it's hard to work in veterinary school and you may not have the resources to cover rent and housing and food and all that kind of stuff for one full academic year, and that's understandable. Any financial aid accepted that exceeds what's on your bill at Iowa State will be refunded back to you. That refund is usually available around the first day of class. So yes, you can get financial aid back to live on. The financial aid refund, it goes out at the beginning of the semester, and that refund is intended to cover your out-of-pocket expenses for that entire semester. Our student panel can also speak to how they are using this to live on, cover personal expenses, and their experience using financial aid as well. I do recommend planning to live like a student while you're in veterinary school, much like you did in your undergraduate years. It doesn't change much. It's just, it is harder to work as a veterinary student as compared to undergrad. You may have had more work options available to you. I do recommend getting an idea of what your out-of-pocket expenses look like before you come to veterinary school, and perhaps plan to cover those smaller dollar costs out of pocket if you are able, with summer savings, or maybe working 5 to 10 hours a week if that is an option for you while you are in school. A lot of students are paying their direct expenses though, their bill at Iowa State and rent, because that's their other big dollar expense using student loan money. Certainly this will vary student to student, but I also want you to be able to focus on your schooling and not be overly stressed about your finances. And one way you can do that is by using student loans responsibly to cover those direct costs and reducing borrowing however and whenever you can. Finally, some frequently asked questions I get, especially for our non-resident students. I know a lot of you are joining us today, is if you can get in-state tuition and fees. The answer to that is probably not. Students who are military affiliated may acquire in-state tuition and fees as a result of their military affiliation, or students who move to Iowa and establish residency prior to beginning veterinary school may also be considered residents, but at this point you would have already had to have established residency. So it's unlikely you will establish residency while you are enrolled at Iowa State University. Dr. Ramirez will speak about scholarships here shortly. Unfortunately, there are no grants for students who are post-bachelor's degree. So once you're pursuing a master's degree, PhD, or a DVM, grants are no longer funded, unfortunately. And can you get more financial aid? Possibly. There was a question earlier about using health insurance at Iowa State. Yes, financial aid can cover the cost of medical bills out of pocket, including health insurance that you have to pay out of pocket. The other one I see sometimes is for students who have children. We can help cover childcare expenses, as well as if you are a commuter student joining us from county or a city away, we may be able to help with those expenses as well. My recommended next steps moving ahead include filing the FAFSA if you are going to use student loans. And then once you have access to Access Plus, is to monitor your financial aid menu in there. Once there, you can see your FAFSA information, you can see your financial aid offer. Once that's available, that will also be mailed to you. And all of your loan steps that need to be completed will be available to you in Access Plus. You will probably get an email from me late May or June with information about your financial aid offer as well. And I recommend completing all loan steps by the end of July to ensure your financial aid disperses on time. My email address again is provided. This PowerPoint will be available after the sessions today, and I'm going to hang around for Q&A. But at this point, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Ramirez to speak more about scholarships.
All right, thank you. Great to have you all here present. My name is Alex Ramirez. I'm one of the faculty members here at the college. I do teach 2 veterinary entrepreneurship courses that are electives, as well as a Spanish for veterinarians course. I know there's somebody that applied with a Spanish background, and then also involved in multiple curricular things, but also as an assistant dean for academic and student affairs. One of my roles as an assistant dean for academic and student affairs is to help with the scholarship program. So you heard their dean. So far, our goal is to try to reach 10%, and we're getting close. Last year, he showed the number a little over 1 million. There's going to be a brochure that will be available that has some more information on where you can see some of these scholarships. This year, we're already up to a little over $1.1 million in scholarships. And we kind of try to simplify the process for you, right? Scholarships is kind of like grant money, it's free money. So we know it's very important and a big role of meeting the needs of students. One of the challenges with scholarships is we rely on donors, and sometimes those donors put very specific criteria. So we would love to give money to everyone, but we have to follow what the donors' requests are. So FAFSA form, Tara talked about the FAFSA form. Even if you're financially okay or you haven't, make sure we have a FAFSA form for you, because some of these scholarships that say there must be financial need, we use that FAFSA form to determine whether you have financial need or not. Obviously, as a vet student, you have financial need, but if you don't have a FAFSA form filled out, we cannot give you some of these scholarships that require a financial need. So again, last year we gave a little over $1 million. I think the total number of scholarships and awards was almost 300. Our approach is, those of you that are in this call as incoming students, we don't want to bother you with additional paperwork. So what we do is we go through your application and identify criteria from your application and the essays you wrote to match you up to the scholarships we have available for entering BM1s. Entering BM1s, last year we gave about 327,000, 328,000. My guess this year is going to be similar, slightly higher than that. So we do have a big chunk of money that's available for those of you incoming, and you automatically qualify. And again, make sure you have some of those FAFSA forms, because as long as you have a FAFSA form, we can also include you in those scholarships that require that financial need. So we go through, we've given some of them, not all of them. Once we're done with the application process, quite a few of you will also get additional letters with some additional funds once we kind of have a little bit of the class figured out, and we can kind of award you. Award amounts vary. Some are repetitive over years, but a lot of them are a one-time, and then you qualify, you know, for additional scholarships the following year. What we do for our other students, so once you're at Vet Med, our approach for the internal scholarships is we have you fill out what we call a one app, a single application that asks all kinds of questions, and it's pretty easy to do. Sometimes there's a weird question because a scholarship may have a weird thing that you play an instrument or whatever. So there might be a weird question. And based on those, we have an awards committee. So we have, for each class, we have a, you know, for the VM1s, VM2s, VM3s, VM4s, we have an awards committee of faculty that then go through and match up students based on their interests, based on scholarship criteria, to get those. So from a student perspective, for the Iowa State scholarships, which again is over 1.1 million, you pretty much don't have to do much other than fill out the one app. There are external opportunities for scholarships, so you can take advantage. The American Veterinary Medical Foundation, so not the AVMA Association, but the American Veterinary Medical Foundation also has some scholarships available. Since they're not administered through Iowa State, you can get access to those going to their website. We do try to kind of, as we find out information, share that information with our students on available scholarships that are outside Iowa State. We're also working on some of these forgiveness programs, loan forgiveness. Actually, we're working for one for students that stay in Iowa through the Iowa's legislature to try to also provide some loan forgiveness as well through those programs. So we're kind of exploring all the options we can as a way to make sure that we maximize the amount of free money that we can kind of give you as students. So we do kind of keep them kind of prioritized. We try to emphasize, especially try to give you early on money as much as we can, because we strongly feel a lot of the loans that you get for vet school, the interest accumulates. So we try to shift those funds to give you those loans early on. Currently also the college, additional to our scholarship money, our college has set aside about a little over another $1 million or $1.2 million that we also give to our fourth year students to offset some of their additional expenses. So there's quite a bit of money. Unfortunately, there's never enough, right? Also, unfortunately, not every student gets a scholarship. Like I said, if you look at each class, we have maybe 500 and some 550 students. Last year, there was 300 scholarships almost. Some students qualified for more than one, so not every student gets one. You're all high-driven, well-deserving students. But our dean is committed to continue to grow that pool of money so we can get closer to that $2 million just in scholarships without counting that summer programs that we give to our fourth year students. So I think that's what I wanted to highlight for all of you. I'm sure there's probably a lot of questions on financial aid and scholarships. So I think I'd like to open it now to any questions that anyone may have for either Tara or myself.
Okay, thanks, Tara and Dr. Ramirez. So I know that some of them have been answered already, but I think it's good, kind of for the good of the whole group. There's a few I think that would be good. One is, Dr. Ramirez, can you talk a little bit more about one app? That's for students that are essentially 2nd through 4th years, correct?
That's correct. So once you are an Iowa State student and you're at the vet school here, it's the same program. If you're an outside student or any student that's already at Iowa State, it's the same program that is utilized through all the undergraduate programs. But once you are a vet student for your year 2, 3, and 4, that's when we will use the one app. And we will provide you access to that early on. We will give you all the directions. We send out reminders. So we kind of make sure everybody's kind of knows it's an easy app to utilize. For those of you coming in, you don't have to do anything. We automatically are pulling information from your application in order to minimize the work for you and make sure that we can maximize how much we can give each one of you.
Perfect. And then for alternates, are they eligible for those scholarships too? How might it work for a student who's an alternate?
Yes. So everybody's qualified for scholarships. What we will do is as our class is settled in, okay, so right now if you're an alternate, you might still get in, but once we have our, when we go through here after April 22nd and we start opening things, we start assigning scholarships at that time. Scholarships are very fluid. So at different times we get additional scholarships that people say, here we have one more scholarship, so we go ahead and award it. So if you are an alternate down the road, you can still get scholarships. Once we start filling up our class, that's when you're less likely, just because whatever we have available we'll probably offer to those who have already accepted at that time. But we wait till we have our class kind of filled in, so we make sure we maximize all students who have applied to get those scholarships.
Fantastic, thank you. So Tara, I've got a question here from Kendra that's, the rabies vaccination is pricey, right? Can that be put in on financial aid? Can they use financial aid towards that?
Yeah, I was typing the response as you were speaking. Possibly. I can't speak for sure on the immunization, but I believe that begins before classes start. And financial aid is intended to cover costs incurred after the first day of class. And so I think most students have had options to cover that prior to starting at Iowa State. I don't know if health insurance could cover any of it, but certainly that could possibly help offset the cost. I did have a couple students this past year who incurred out-of-pocket costs after classes began for immunization expenses, and we were able to increase their loan options, so increasing that unsubsidized loan if it's not already maxed out, as well as the plus loan eligibility especially for non-resident students. This isn't done automatically, and so let me know if you are incurring those out-of-pocket immunization expenses after classes begin, and yes, we can look at the additional loan options to help get those covered.
Great. Kind of on the lines, I know you answered this one, Tara, but just in case people aren't reading through all of the answered questions, can you talk a little bit more about FAFSA and, now kind of knowing about this the parent health profession student loan, right, where they need parent information. If a student hasn't filed or hasn't put in that parent information, can they edit FAFSA in any way?
Yeah, especially if you filed the FAFSA initially prior to March 1st, you can go in and add parent information to your FAFSA to be considered for the health profession student loan. If you've not yet filed it or filed it after March 1st, I would say don't worry about adding parent information. It's not necessary for the unsubsidized loan or plus loan. But if you did file it earlier this year and did not add parent information, yes, you can go back and make that change. I would say if you are a student who's been offered admission, make that change as soon as possible. And if you are a student who is alternate right now, go ahead and also add that parent information. So if and when you are offered admission, we can let you know about next steps as soon as possible for that healthcare professional student loan.
Fantastic, thank you. So what about Access Plus? Either Dr. Ramirez or Tara, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about the Access Plus site and what that means for students?
Yes, so Access Plus is the portal Iowa State University students use to log in to view and pay their university bill, view their financial aid offer. I would say some students use it to see a class schedule. All schools have something similar, and I know in your undergraduate years you had something where you logged in, you could see your schedule and pick classes and all that kind of stuff. It looks a little different school to school, but it's the same type of portal. There's a login option on the main Iowa State webpage, and information is provided to each student with their login information. The financial aid offer will always be live in there once it goes out in May, and then all financial aid steps are available and completed online in Access Plus as well. So it will be important to really start checking it in June. Certainly you can get in there sooner than that, but financial aid wise, June is really when the ball starts rolling there.
Perfect. Great. Can either of you, this isn't a question that is up currently, but I know it's a question that I've gotten sometimes. Can either of you kind of talk about a little bit about maybe outside scholarships that our students receive that might be available?
Yes, I'll be glad to talk about that. So one of the challenges with outside scholarships is we have no control over them, so we don't know where the deadlines or all that are. But there are lots of organizations that do provide scholarships to students from different backgrounds. So what I would recommend is from whatever community you're in, I know like the Des Moines Women's Club has a scholarship for veterinary students attending Iowa State. Your different clubs, organizations in your community, it's a matter of just searching to see what scholarships may be available for those particular locations. If you go to the American Vet Med Foundation, they also have different scholarships that are available. So it's a matter of just trying to search and see if you can identify some scholarships. Some are for professional programs, some are for undergraduate programs. So searching or utilizing the correct search term sometimes will kind of help you identify some of those.
Great, fantastic. Thank you. So when Dr. Ramirez, one last question for you. So first year students incoming, when might they be notified for scholarships? Yeah,
so we have a few scholarships that have already gone out to incoming first year students. Those are some that are targeted what they're called our recruitment scholarships. So we utilize them at the time we make students an offer. But there's a bigger chunk of scholarships we're holding on to right now. My guess is, again, when that class fills out, it kind of depends how long it takes for that class to kind of fill out. So my guess is probably closer to May would be a time when we would have some of those offers out. Again, our goal is once we have our class formed, not 100%, but most of our students to be able to maximize their qualifications on that. So my guess is some of that, there'll be a few trickling out between now and then, but by May, pretty much most of those scholarships will have been awarded via our letter. And then once in a while we have somebody who accepts and then there's a change in plan or defers or whatever. So there might be some other scholarships that come after May as well. So it doesn't mean you're not getting any, but by May, there's less likely you would receive an award.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So with that, it is 11:20, and I want to say thank you to Dr. Ramirez and to Tara for joining us and talking a little bit more about financial aid and scholarships.